Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us today. We'll just give it one more minute and then we will get started. We have lots of people already on the call. Welcome. Thank you for joining us. Okay, we'll get started at 4:02. We're almost there. I see lots of people have joined, which is great. Thank you. Welcome, everybody. Okay, I think we will get started. So thanks everybody for the opportunity to discuss a supply chain update with all of you. We're very excited to be here. We're going to be talking about the challenges our world faces today and how CDW can help you, our customers, through this situation. My name is Dan Reio. I'm the Director of Product and Partner Management for CDW's Endpoint portfolio, which is made up of our PCs and peripherals business. I'm joined today by Heidi Nisker, our Director of PPM for the Solutions portfolio, and by Sabrina Verburg, our Senior Manager of Procurement. We're going to spend about the next 20 minutes talking a little bit about market situation, and then we'll open up for the questions. I'm sure we'll have you out of here in half an hour at the most today. We will be answering questions at the very end. You're welcome to put your hand up and ask questions towards the end, and then we will have a representative from our senior sales leadership team join us at the very end and help us through some of the questions that you may have. There were also a couple that were submitted ahead of time, and we have those on our roster as well to answer at the end. So as I said, we'll just wrap up with questions towards the end. So please capture them and be ready to ask them at the end. So let's jump in with the conversation and what's going on with the supply chain and product availability. At the start of 2022, I had shared the following slide with some CDW customers and coworkers. Maybe some of you were on some of those earlier webinars. Lots of interesting headlines we covered here at that time. I've highlighted some key words: surging demand, the market isn't slowing down, chip shortages, increasing shipping costs, a container crisis, major real-world consequences. On what? Everything. And that cargo ship quote on the bottom of the page is pretty interesting. That was at the time 20 plus months into this pandemic, only 6 months ago now. And I wish I could tell you it was significantly better today, but it's not. Next slide. First, let's review what transpired and what the impacts continue to be, and then I'm going to give you a bit of a 2022 update. I'm sure all of you have felt continued shortages, not just on technology, but lots of things: cars, furniture, and near and dear to us, technology. Things are harder to find, and actually costs are up on many things today as well too. So at a macro level, what happened? Well, manufacturers reacted to a pandemic back in March of 2020 as expected. They stopped making things. Normally when world events like a pandemic occur, people actually do stop buying. But guess what? Everyone started buying more. Demand for almost everything went up. Let's talk about high demand using one example, near and dear to our heart: PCs. It's probably safe to say that all of you on this webinar have bought a PC in the last 2 years, whether for your business, for yourself, for a family member. For CDW, our PC business grew year one of the pandemic by 10% and another 30% in 2021. That was a 12x the growth increase over 2020. That's almost 100,000 PCs more than in 2020. Our business overall, actually, across most categories, all categories even, were up more than $250 million last year. So while you may all feel shortages and find that products do actually take longer to get, the reality is that we in our industry have been shipping significantly more than previous years. So the only reason some shortages exist is due to huge demand and a supply chain that cannot keep up to that huge volume increase. So let's talk about shortages. Computer chips consumption has been constantly increasing, right? Everything today uses some type of computer chip. The initial trigger of these shortages was, of course, the pandemic, right? Lockdowns which shut down semiconductor chip making in the key production areas while demand soared. And the ability to ramp back up and then catch up has just been too much for the system. And this does unfortunately continue into 2022. And these factories cost billions of dollars and take years to build. So we can't just quickly add more capacity. Some of our partners like Apple, NetApp, and Pure Storage make a lot of their own chips and are therefore less at the mercy of component manufacturers making those raw chips. But most depend on those core chips. We also see uncertainty in supply as OEMs may focus their components on one product one week and another the next week, trying to catch up on all their demand. So what this means to you is you could buy something today, get it next week, but then when you order it again next week, it may take 2 months to arrive. And then even when goods can actually be manufactured, it's become significantly harder to ship them to their destination. Logistics and shipping companies themselves were impacted. Of course, those who physically move goods cannot work from home. And they too are struggling to catch up and deal with high demands. And in fact, it's actually the shipping systems that are currently the major issue, not really chip shortages. So let's talk about some of those shipping stats. Ocean-going container ships are the primary way we move goods internationally. 90% of what we buy arrives by ship. During the first lockdown, capacities in manufacturing and shipping dropped. Then market realized demand didn't drop. So factories ramped back up, crammed the shipping systems, which they themselves scrambled to ramp up. With lower demand in past years, shipping companies had actually not been upgrading or adding to their fleets, so there are no more ships in the short term. And from a cost perspective, before 2020, transporting a standard 40-foot container on a ship sailing from a Chinese port to North America cost about $1,000. Currently, the cost of that is about $10,000. And not just cargo ships. Air freight's high, as is train and trucking as well too. And then of course, quarantining, outbreaks, social distancing all continue to lead to lower available capacity and still a massive backlog to catch up to. So why are things not under control yet? It really comes down to volume. And while chips are doing better today, there continues to be a major shipping challenge. In fact, there's been a little bit of a pivot in the last 12 months, where the major issue seems to be shipping capacity, not chips. Not chips, instead of ships. So the reality is the situation continues to be highly fluid and constantly changing. So having said that, how would all of you in this call have felt some of those impacts in the last 2 years? Well, it would have been as longer lead times. All right, next slide. It would have been longer lead times, inconsistent ETAs, lacking inventory, and of course, increasing pricing, or at least what you feel as less interest from the OEMs in offering up special pricing for you to buy some of their products. Next slide. So what has changed now that we're halfway through 2022? Well, I can say that things are a little better, but not a lot better. Yes, there are continued chip shortages, and the impact of that varies by industry. Intel's CEO had previously been quoted saying the chip shortage will continue into 2024, but recently his comments were that Intel's own processors no longer have any significant production constraints, but he added that getting those products to the OEMs who make PCs is the major issue now. Some headlines report that chip shortages are easing, which is great news. So while there will be continued shortages of chips, the main issue is expected to be the inability of the shipping system to get them shipped. Not as much due to actual chip production. In fact, port congestion continues to significantly slow the circulatory movement of ships, containers, and other transport assets. And this unfortunately removes capacity, lengthens those transit times, and forces those higher shipping rates. As 2022 began, the container shipping supply chain remained in the deepest crisis I'd ever seen. That's the beginning of 2022. A shipping executive made a quote that was, "We expect a bigger mess than last year. It will have a big negative impact for the whole of 2022. So I wish I could tell you that things are materially different, but they're not. And let's not forget COVID still exists, so more impacts in manufacturing will continue. In fact, if you've been keeping up with the news, China ports like Shanghai have recently been locked down again due to COVID outbreaks. And those work stoppages cause further production and shipping delays. And actually some predict that China's very stringent rules to curb COVID-19 are about to unleash another wave of summer chaos on supply chains between Asia, North America, and Europe. While demand remains at heightened levels, we will continue to see shortages. And while some do predict the demand will continue, others think we may see some decline in demand. From personal CDW experience, we are seeing continued strong demand with our CDW customers, many of those on this call, for PCs and most technology. So we continue to fight for supply for our customers. And then unfortunately, there's another world event impact we must talk about, as if we needed another, and that's the Russia-Ukraine war. You're probably wondering what impact that has on technology supply. Well, gases, including neon and helium, are critical for semiconductor manufacturing and other essential industries, and 50 to 70% of global neon comes from the Ukraine. On this, the world is currently scrambling to ramp up other countries to supply these gases. Hopefully that gives you some perspective on the macro issues we all continue to face And the reality is that we're not out of this yet, and probably won't be in 2022. I'm now going to turn the discussion over to Heidi. Heidi?
Sounds good. Thanks, Dan. Next slide, please, Cassandra. Thanks. So I'm Heidi Nisker, and I am the Director of Partner and Product Management for what we call our solutions area of the business at CDW Canada. So for some context, the solutions business includes all manufacturers on the data center side of the business, including networking, security, and cloud. My team also manages modern workplace and collaboration products as well. But before I dive into my update on supply chain, I'm just going to give you a brief summary of CDW's value add, who we are in the Canadian market, and why we are the experts at solving all your IT needs from endpoint to cloud. So CDW is the largest IT service provider in Canada, and we are a $20 billion organization globally. We have incredible relationships with our manufacturer partners based on our revenue, volume, and sheer numbers of customers we service every single day. As you can see, we have some amazing stats here, 900 plus people across Canada, a long history here as well, and a strong bench of pre and post sales experts with full stack service capabilities in market. Next slide, please. So here's a snapshot of our incredibly broad ecosystem of partners with over 1,300 plus relationships globally, spanning across all technology pillars. In Canada, we are known in the industry for our deep technical bench for hybrid infrastructure, security, and networking. We're also known as the go-to partners for all laptop, desktop, and printers. In 2021, we won Partner of the Year for so many of these manufacturers, and this recognition gives CDW more priority, insight, and leverage when it comes to availability for our customers. Next slide, please, Cassandra. Our head office is in Toronto, and since the acquisition of Scalar Decisions in 2019, CDW can now service every region with 9 local offices across Canada. That acquisition got CDW Canada to $1.5 billion annually, with a pre and post sales bench of over 240 plus engineers with local feet on the street. Next slide. So let's talk about supply chain and availability in the categories I mentioned earlier. I'll spend time going by each category because it truly varies based on product and manufacturer. I'll start with the good news here. So collaboration gear. So items like headsets, cameras, et cetera, are shipping pretty quickly. We saw large delays of these products early in the pandemic due to sheer volume of work from home needs. And there continues to be ebb and flow of volume, but generally you can get your hands on these products relatively easily. Firewalls. So we know security is top of mind for all of our customers, as it should be. So manufacturers like Fortinet, Palo Alto Networks, SonicWall, et cetera, really understand this urgency. And so we've seen a lot of our firewall partners stock up locally in North America. So product is readily available to ship. We've seen some delays in newer releases versus slightly older technology, but overall, we've seen these items ship fairly quickly based on manufacturer. Let's move to storage. So manufacturers like NetApp, Dell, HPE, Nutanix has actually improved. I'd say a lot of these products are more custom built and their lead times are between about 1 to 3 months based on the manufacturer. These delays that we've seen in this category are mostly chip-based. So custom builds are more forgiving based on the fact that we can pick and choose what's available. So again, storage is not too bad based on the manufacturer. Some are better than others, that's for sure. Parts availability and factory location also factor into that shipping capability. Moving on to servers, servers can definitely be available to ship. However, really, again, depends on the manufacturer. Manufacturers like Dell, Lenovo, HPE, Cisco are delayed due to Intel and AMD chip shortages and closures in Shanghai. But overall, again, depending on the manufacturer, it could be anywhere from 1 to 6 months shipping time. Some lead times look better than others, but my advice is to speak to your account manager or local solution architect who can help provide guidance on server and storage availability. And then we get to networking. So manufacturers like Cisco, Aruba, Juniper, et cetera, this is where we're seeing the most delays, unfortunately. The raw material shortage on top of closures in Shanghai, as well as chip shortages, have truly impacted this category the most. There is good news here, however. Depending on the specific product, we are finally starting to see some movement on shipping time. So hopefully this trend continues in the right direction. So I recognize that my comments were very broad and high level, but I'm sure you can all appreciate this is it's an ever-changing environment for all of us. My ask is that you work closely with your account manager who can guide you based on availability and in-stock product. And on that note, I'm going to pass it over to Sabrina Verburg, who's going to talk about our distribution partners. Over to you, Sabrina.
Excellent. Thanks, Heidi. Next slide, please. So good afternoon, everyone. My name is Sabrina Verburg, and I am the Senior Manager of Procurement here at CDW Canada. I would like to pivot now and elaborate on a few points Heidi just made and highlight how these can complement your business while we continue to navigate our way through today's landscape. One of the benefits of CDW's size and scale is the deep roots we have established with our partners. CDW holds the #1 spot as the top Canadian solutions provider in Canada, and with many of our manufacturer partners, we are their largest seller. The same holds true for our distribution partners, where we are their #1 customer. Why is this important? Well, the reality is that these strong partnerships give us more face-to-face time with them. We have a high level of engagement with the most senior leaders across their organizations. And this has a tremendous influence on our ability to expedite orders and allows us to capitalize on more than our fair share of inventory allocation. Next slide, please. So I'd like to share a glimpse of some of the programs CDW can offer you that can reduce long lead times and get finished goods in your hands sooner. The first is simply inventory holds. We consistently evaluate the most popular sold products against current channel availability and make strategic decisions to secure and reserve products so that you, our customers, have access to it first. Of course, we recognize this inventory may not always be the product that you have an immediate need for, and on occasion you may see inventory available that is of interest. We encourage you to work with your account manager, who will be happy to collaborate with the procurement team to place a stock hold on your behalf as you work through the PO issuance cycle and avoid losing the inventory and ultimately disappointment. I will add that often the relationships we have with our distributors means that CDW already receives priority access, so inventory holds are not always necessary, but highly encouraged due to the current supply and demand state. The second program I'd like to touch on is our pre-orders, also known as blood builds. We have the ability to pre-order strategic opportunities, and this is a great option to consider when POs are delayed and held up for one reason or another. We know that getting orders in even one day early can make a difference, whether it be to lock in pricing that's set to expire or simply to get ahead of the long build lead time so that manufacturing plants can queue your order. The program allows us to get a head start, and I will state the obvious, must be accompanied by a firm commitment and no changes will be accepted, but can be critical to deliver your business needs. The key message here, and I'm sure as no surprise, the sooner you engage and get your orders in, the better. Next slide, please. In addition, we also have 3 other staging programs to offer that are frequently leveraged and once again designed to reduce long lead times, can help you manage IT budgets, streamline refreshes, and offer a slew of warehousing and logistic advantages. These programs are currently in place with 3 of our top strategic partners, distribution partners, and can be leveraged in warehouses, either in Ontario or British Columbia. Our one-time hold and bill is one of 2 variations. We have 2 variations of this program and our most popular program to date. This is where you would enter into an agreement with CDW with a commitment to ship and buy these products within a 90-day window. Once the agreement is executed, we will submit and secure the requirement on your behalf. And when the product arrives, it is placed into an inventory bin that is exclusive for you, which means no one else has access to this inventory. We hold this inventory until you're ready to begin deploying it. The second variation of the program is what we refer to as a min-max. The main difference with this program is that CDW will maintain a minimum and maximum quantity as mutually agreed upon and automatically replenishes orders as you consume the inventory. In both hold and bill scenarios I just described, the price may fluctuate and is based on the current cost at the time of deployment. The next program is our buy and hold. You can enjoy much of the same benefits of our hold and bill that I just talked you through. However, the primary difference to note is that the billing occurs immediately upon receipt of the distribution center. Once the product has been billed, it's then transferred and placed in a secure, reserved customer-owned location that you can deploy when you're ready to consume it. I recognize these are a very high-level overview of the programs, And I encourage you to work with your account managers to see if any of these would be a good option for your business. These programs have proven to be a success, and while we can't control the current environment entirely, you can see that we do have viable options in place that are available for you to leverage. With the lead times continuing to put pressure on the supply chain through 2023, it's critical that we're engaging early in discussions to identify future opportunities and continue to partner to mitigate the challenges that will enable your business continuity and continued success. Thank you for your time today. And now I will hand it back over to Dan.
Thanks, Sabrina. Thank you, Heidi. Before I close, I just wanted to share an update on my product portfolio, similar to what Heidi shared earlier. For CDW, my endpoint solutions portfolio represents just under half of our business and well over $500 million in sales. To give you some notion of this size, it's 300,000 PCs, 250,000 displays, 750,000 accessories, and 150,000 printers. This slide shares some supply comments on our product categories. PCs are a little bit more available these days, and local inventory actually is the best it has been in a while. But lead times continue to be long for new orders, and you may still not be able to get the specific machine you want. There are some shortages on accessories, but generally they're not too bad. We are seeing good growth here, with one exception: docking stations. The major OEMs have been impacted very hard on docking stations. We actually have thousands on back orders still. But accessory vendors like Targus and others often have much better availability on docks if that's an option for you. On the display side, we're seeing much better availability and supply. And this year's sales of displays have actually been a major driver of the endpoint business. So this is the only category that I'm going to flag green. On printers, we still see some supply challenges on the lower end personal printers with better availability from some of the smaller manufacturers. On point of sale devices, things like barcode scanners, we still continue to see shortages and longer lead times. I wanted to share that Gartner actually publishes a supply chain top 25, and we see many of CDW's technology partners on that list, including Cisco, Schneider Electric, Intel, Lenovo, Microsoft, HPI, and Dell. So this tells us that we'll continue to see progress as these companies are already doing a good job according to Gartner. Before I wrap up, I wanted to comment on another benefit that CDW brings to you. That's our amazing team of pre-sales experts. Within my team alone, I have 15 people dedicated to our endpoint partner portfolio, some of the brands that you see here on this slide. And beyond that, CDW has hundreds of pre-sales and technical experts that can also assist all of you across most categories. The vendor-dedicated pre-sales team are the experts who can understand your business and make solution recommendations, but more importantly, on today's topic of shortages, they can also make recommendations on products and solution alternatives that are more available in the market today. They have very close alignment to our product management team and vendor and distribution partners and can align available solutions for your needs. So please don't hesitate to leverage this large team of pre-sales experts to help you find solutions to solve your business problems that are more available in today's constrained marketplace. Just engage your account manager and they can get our pre-sales team on a call with you. Next slide. And in closing, the reality of the marketplace we face today is that these supply challenges that are impacting our business today will not be solved by the end of 2022. That said, we're continuing to see things get slightly better, which is a good sign. The impact of COVID continues to impact staffing levels across the supply chain, which ultimately impacts product availability. As we shared earlier, CDW has better capability to help you navigate these supply challenges, but we still ask you to work very closely with your CDW sales representative. Your sales contact at CDW can provide you regular updates on the supply picture for your products that you purchase from CDW. And when you think about your IT needs, we recommend you forecast your needs for a rolling 6 months ideally, and get those orders in well ahead before you need products to allow us the time to work on that needed supply. And if any of the procurement or staging programs could benefit your procurement needs, please engage your account manager to inquire about them. Thanks for your time, and with that, I'm going to turn it over to Cale Johnson, one of CDW's senior sales managers, to close.
Thank you, Dan. And thank you, Dan, Heidi, and Sabrina for the update today. We really appreciate you bringing all of this information together and collaborating on this presentation. And thanks to all the customers who are on the line. And I also see there's a number of CDW salespeople on the line as well, too. This information is really important for them as well, too, as we work to serve our customers. So, I can say this has been the most challenging time as far as just like product and all the stuff that we took for granted of getting products to people quickly has really gone out the window in the last 2 years, but it has forced us and our customers to plan, their needs and be prepared for what those needs are in 6 to 12 months. Dan, that's a great suggestion. And I think the one theme that you heard from all three was like engage with your CDW account manager. Them and our sales leadership team are very well educated and versed in getting these staging agreements and different programs in front of you and getting them taken care of. I can speak, we bothered Sabrina's team quite a bit over the last couple of years getting a lot of these programs going, and I'm seeing tons of them happening, especially in our small business side where we have a lot of scale ups and businesses of that nature. So definitely, take advantage of your CDW team and get those kinds of things going. So thanks everyone for bringing that together. We do have some questions that were submitted beforehand, and I will also we'll take some live questions as well from the audience. So if you do have a question, if you want to, there's a raise hand function in your WebEx, or you can hit Control-Shift-R, which will raise your hand for you. And I'll take them as they come in order, and I'll start with the ones that were pre-submitted, and then we can go from there. So the first question, I think this one would be for Heidi. So the question comes and it says, will moving to infrastructure as a service, i.e. HPE GreenLake or Dell Apex, solve the infrastructure supply chain issues?
I think, it's a good question. I think it really depends on what you want to do within your environment and with your data. But on average, yes, we're seeing GreenLake cut shipping times in half. So, under a month, basically for GreenLake shipping needs. But generally, what I'd recommend is to speak to your account manager, to speak to to connect you with one of our solution architects, specifically Simon Copon, who's our GreenLake specialist, for more information.
All right, thank you, Heidi. And then the next question, it's fairly general, and I think it's sort of been answered. So just in regards to laptop, desktop, and peripheral delays. Dan, is there any other color you'd like to add to that? I feel like it's been answered pretty well in the presentation already, but.
Yeah, I mean, definitely, from a PC perspective, we're definitely much more optimistic about PC supply these days. So that covers off the PC. On the peripheral side of things, printers are still a little bit challenging, as I noted. I would say the biggest challenge that we still have is docking stations. You kind of heard me say that as well, too. So if you think about specific peripherals that are still a red challenge when it comes to supply chain, it's really going to be docking stations. The rest of the products, we're definitely seeing much better availability. And as I said here, I'm going to go back to the comments I made on the pre-sales team. For all of those major OEMs, I have a pre-sales person that can engage with you, and they can help find what might be available. Obviously, most manufacturers have different options for different pieces of technology. So there's usually a way to find some piece of technology that fits what it is that you need. So I encourage you to engage that team. So hopefully that helps. Thanks, Gail.
Great, thanks, Dan. And one more pre-question. What is being done to improve the current state of supply chain from a hardware manufacturer perspective? Another thing I feel like you've covered pretty well through the presentation, but any wrap up or any further color?
Sure. I mean, I guess the one thing that, if you've not heard, Intel is making significant investments into adding to their capacity, their manufacturing capacity, and actually spreading that out in different geographical regions as well, too, right? They're investing a ton in the United States in terms of having some additional production capability there, as well as in Europe as well. Now, the challenge with some of those fabs is that they take, not only do they cost billions of dollars, but they also take many years to create. So unfortunately, that capacity won't come online for a few more years. But there are definitely efforts like that manufacturers like Intel, which an awful lot of companies actually depend on for some of the technology in their products, that have definitely added to the capacity. On the shipping side of things, it's really up to those individual organizations. As you heard me say earlier, shipping capacity and the supply chain itself, not the manufacturing capacity, is actually what our major problem tends to be these days. And so there's just a lot of work being done on just trying to streamline it. Unfortunately, as COVID still exists, there will still be continued road bumps caused by COVID, right? And everyone is trying their best to completely eradicate it. And if you've not done any, if you've not heard a little bit about China's, strategy to eradicate COVID, do some Google searching on it, because I mean, their desire is to completely eradicate it. And so they do extreme lockdowns, but then unfortunately that has an impact of production across. So I wish we could say that the lockdowns shutdowns are done now, and that we have options to, get production back up to the levels that we saw before. But unfortunately, there are still COVID impacts that are going to continue to impact things. So hopefully that helps. Thanks, Gail.
Yeah, thanks, Dan. Okay, so that's it for the pre-submitted questions. Does anyone on the line have any questions? Feel free to raise your hand, or if you just want to jump off mute and shout out your question, please feel free as well.
I love it when it looks like we've answered all the questions. That's awesome.
Well, it was a very thorough presentation. So, okay, so I'll do going once, going twice, and sold on questions. Dan, Heidi, Sabrina, once again, thank you so much for compiling all this information and presenting it to our customers and coworkers. It is very helpful to see and to understand the state of things right now. Seeing some clapping hands going up right now. Oh, I see a hand up from Gurjot Baines. Gurjot. It was a clap or a hand?
Yeah, it was supposed to be a clap. Sorry about that, but great
Okay.
presentation, and thank you for your time.
Yeah, awesome.
Thank you, everyone. And again, as Cale mentioned, if there are any questions, please feel to funnel them back to your account manager. We'd be more than happy to answer them offline via email or whatever it may be. So please don't hesitate to reach out to your account manager. On behalf of us, thank you so much. We appreciate it.
And thanks to all of our customers for continuing to choose CDW. We appreciate your business, and yeah, we're here to support you through these challenging times. And thank you for everything you do for us. Have a great day.
Thanks, everyone. Take care.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.